Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be chatting about the results from a ton of different tournaments this weekend, including Portland, Sao Paulo, and Singapore. We'll, of course, have everyone's favorite segment, Guess That Flavor Text. And then we'll also talk about the Nagata Champions League results, which took place over in Japan. That tournament had 2,700 players at it, and it is in a future format, including cards from our upcoming expansion, Paldea Evolved. We'll talk about maybe a little bit of what the future for the Pokemon TCG has in store for us over here on this side of the world. And then we'll wrap up this episode by chatting about some new Pokemon TCG products, what we think about them, and what they could mean for the future of the game and getting more people introduced to it. My name is Chip Ritchie, and I'm joined here as always by my co-host and friend, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Doing all right. Just got back from Portland and managed to get top 32 there, which doesn't really do much for me in terms of
What
like
did you
points
get,
or
like 10
anything.
CP or something like
I got
that?
0.
Did you
I'm like,
actually get 0?
yeah, I have to get top 8 to get CP. And I was on my winning into top 8. I was actually pretty hyped because I hadn't played against Mew the whole tournament. Last round hit Mew, very good matchup. And then yeah, two of the games just did not go. One of the game one was actually kind of funny because it was like I thought I had no chance in game one. Then I like drew 2 prize cards and I was like, well, maybe I can pull off the Kyogre. And I just started digging through my deck. And then actually their last judge of the game, I think I was actually like pretty likely to pull off the Kyogre to win the game. I needed to draw into like I had like a beach court, 2 Colress in the deck, and I used one. I had access to a guaranteed 1 Comfey before I was like, I kind of like didn't have switch outs to maybe pull off the play anymore. But I actually even I had double Mirage Gate left as well. So like I had a switch card in hand, so I would use one Comfey, whiffed, use another Comfey, use switch card, use another Comfey, with the Colress. That one I had to hit Colress on. I think the second Comfey I had to find the Colress. But the first Comfey, if I had just found like the Beach Court or Kyogre, I think I pretty much had the play set up. So yeah, it was kind of that one was like weird because it felt like I had no chance in the game from the start going on. But then when it got down to the end, I actually had a pretty good shot to win the game, but the judges were just really rough in that set overall. Game two,
Yeah.
pretty easy dub, and then yeah, game three was kind of the same thing. Really bad start. Had like 2 Pokemon in play turn one, and got nothing really cooking after that. So yeah, unfortunate to not pull out the top 8 there, especially going into such a good matchup in the final round. But it's whatever. Yeah, kind of unfortunate run, but still pretty good showing from the squad. Of course, Grant got top 8. We'll take a look at the list in general here in a little bit, and then Isaiah got 10th or ninth place. I forget, 10th or
Ninth,
ninth
I
place, something like that.
think.
Yeah. But yeah, good tournament overall. Good deck choice, I think, for sure. And then yeah, the results from the squad were solid for sure.
Yeah, played the Lost Box, like you said. You actually got to play on stream as well. So if anyone wants to go watch Azul's
Yeah.
game, it was a little quick one though because something kind of interesting happened. If you want to talk about it a little bit,
Oh
so
yeah. So yeah, we're playing on stream. They an ID basically put them in cut. Actually, that wasn't how it
your
went. They weren't able
opponent.
to ID the next round. Yeah, my opponent offered me the ID at the beginning of the round before they took us up to stream, and I was like, no, I mean, I should play for the win here, so I didn't take it. But I knew if they won game one, I would offer them the ID right back after they won game one. And actually, I probably should have won game one. I did misplay. There's like this weird situation in the middle of the game where they forgot to put 2 damage counters on the Giratina V
Yeah,
on the bench. I don't think they did it maliciously or anything. And actually, the damage that they forgot wouldn't have affected me potentially winning the game. And like there was that whole back and forth there for a little bit, and I wasn't sure. I like was rethinking the plays that I was making on my board state, and then for some reason, I just thought I had one less prize card than I did at some point. And I think that's just because the prize cards are on my right instead of my left. They're just not in visual. They're like so removed from the board state. I'm not trying to blame it. Like the reason I misplayed was because I was on stream, but it definitely like was something I wasn't like trying to be overly aware of. So I think if my prize cards were in the right place, I wouldn't have thought I had one less prize card than I did at all for sure. So the prize cards being way off to the right side on the other side of my deck definitely was not in a visual cue that I was like paying attention to at all. I was not looking that far right. I was only like kind of paying attention to the board. So I figured out if I want to Sableye or Greninja that turn, but I did end up drawing to like my Echoing Horn on the next turn. So if I had used Greninja instead of Sableye and then had Sableye in the reserves, then I actually would have won the game on the next turn. And then I definitely wouldn't have offered the ID. I would have hoped to have won game two. And if it got to game three, it probably would have naturally tied anyways, to be honest. But yeah, so that was kind of unfortunate. I didn't play great in the. I feel definitely made some other major mistakes throughout the tournament. Some of them maybe would have changed from some of my losses to wins, but
that's the
in day
nature of
two,
Lost Box, though, man. Like it's hard to play a perfect, like it's impossible to play a
yeah,
perfect tournament of Pokemon, right? It's really hard to play a perfect set people do it sometimes. It's pretty
Yeah.
pretty difficult, and when you're having to make as many decisions per turn as you were with Lost Box, I'd argue it's probably impossible to play a perfect set with Lost Box, like to make
It's definitely harder.
every decision 100% correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, this build of Lost Box, I feel like it got easier without Scoop Up Net for sure. I feel like the other build, when we had Scoop Up Net going on, I just added like
Yeah, that's fair.
more, putting a little bit more pressure on your decisions for some reason. It feels like, but with this one, you're kind of limited to how many like flower seconds you can use a turn. Anyways, you're like, all right, retreat, switch. Okay, that's kind of it. But you can go like net, 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 and just like do like five in a row and kind of rattle them off. And the game hasn't developed as much, but you still want to be aggressively thinning your deck. So yeah, didn't play great at the tournament. Like I said, still got to my win it in. Had a really good matchup. Maybe that was like karma coming back. I was like, well, you want to have bet in this position if you just played a little bit better, which is maybe true. So, but it's fine. Take it there. Yeah, the stream match was it was funny because they offered me the idea before the round. The game plays out. I lose game one, and then I'm like, all right. I like lay out my hand, and I'm like, all right. Before I look at my hand, do you want an ID? Because I don't want to like set up really poorly, right? And then
Yeah,
like have a really bad start before I offer the ID, and then my opponent's like, well, I'm gonna beat you anyways. I should probably just be safe and beat you, right? Like it's definitely very possible for me to. I'm going first. Definitely very possible for me to beat them in game two. The matchup's pretty close, probably about 50-50. So, I didn't know if they would be guaranteed to be able to make it into cut or not off of that ID being able to ID next round or not. I had no clue. I didn't look at the standings or anything, but they were pretty confident that they would be able to. So they took the ID, which is pretty funny. I think it might be the first time that's ever happened on stream because they made us stop and they were like, "You guys can't leave yet because we don't know what to do." That's what the head
yeah,
judges said. They were like, "You guys can't leave yet. I mean, you can ID, but I doubt there's very many times where like the people get up on stage and the game
yeah.
starts and then an ID actually happens. I've seen it happen a couple times. Like I think like Fabian and Pedro played once and they
That's
ID'd
the
before
example I was gonna give.
before the
Yeah,
stream match even started. They had chose the ID, but they still played on stream. But I think some people probably don't even know this, or maybe they're just like nervous to even ask because like there's like a lot of weird people are not like fully informed around like gentlemen's agreements and ID and stuff. I think my last round opponent, we made a gentleman's agreement, but I don't think they fully understood it because they got really nervous when I was talking about gentlemen. We were talking back and forth about the gentlemen's agreements when like they seemed nervous when judges sat down next to us while we were talking about it. But we didn't say anything that was like not within the rules, or what we were
right.
talking about was like a fully within the rules. I think a lot of people just don't fully understand, and maybe I'll do a little rant video on that, like I've been doing recently on
Yeah,
gentlemen's
yeah.
agreements and ID and stuff. But I bet it rarely happens where like the players are on stream are playing against each other, and then after game one of them's like, all right, let's ID, and they're like, okay, sure. Then they both pick up their cards. So it's pretty bad for production too. Like I understand that. I was actually going to say something as well to the judges when they came to get us from our table. I was going to be like, there is a possibility we still tie in this round. We're not IDing right now. Game one will start, but there's a possibility. I was going to say something, and maybe I should have because it probably would have saved production. Probably would have rather picked a different match, but yeah, in the moment I just like wasn't thinking super clearly. But next time I'm in that situation, probably where I'm like, there's definitely a decent chance if they beat me game one, that I'm offering them the ID, and there's a decent chance they take it because they feel very confident in that situation. So I probably should have saved production a little bit of a hassle there.
It's
So I
definitely
apologize
a
for that.
unique situation for
Yeah,
sure. And yeah, I mean, yeah, each player is allowed to offer an ID one time per match, right? So
yeah,
Azul's opponent offered it before the match, and Azul offered it after game one, which
yeah.
is totally
I
within
mean, I
your
wouldn't
rights
have
to do
if they
that.
had offered it to me again after they beat me game one before I got to offer. I wouldn't have snitched on them either. I would have been like, yeah,
Yeah,
sure, I'll take
you'd
the
be
ID.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not gonna.
I think I'm okay with that.
I'm like, wait, you already offered it, Judge. You already offered me the ID. No, I wouldn't have like snitched on them or anything like that. But yeah, um, but yeah, you can offer it once, and even if you're on stream, you're still allowed to tie. So, or ID, I guess I should say. Tying naturally happens all the time.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Chip, you weren't in Portland this week. Um, no one got to hear your soothing voice while they were watching the Pokemon TCG. Instead, what were you up to then? What was your week like?
Brooke and I actually went down and visited with some of our friends in Charlotte for the weekend. So one of my good friends from college, who's one of my roommates in college, he and his wife had a baby 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks after Samuel was born. So they're like super close in age. So we just went down there, hung out with them for the weekend, did some fun things, and got to catch up, which was really fun. And then yeah, after our discussion last week on the podcast when we were talking about like video games and stuff, and you talked about how you bought a PS5, it really had me thinking all week. And I was like doing some research and stuff, and I was like, man, maybe I should just get a PS5. So I went this afternoon and actually bought a PS5. And it's installing Jedi Survivor downstairs right now. And when we're done with the podcast, I'm not going to promise that I'm not going to go downstairs and play through the first couple of of areas in that game. So yeah,
Yeah.
picked up the PS5, excited to hop in and play some games.
By the way, we're not sponsored by PlayStation, even though we've been talking about PS5 a lot. I actually just got mine. I got mine last week, but I just hooked it up today. Once I got back from Portland, I played a little bit of the second God of War game
Mhm.
earlier, and then I
Did you
did
get the bundle
download.
that comes with the new God of War? Yeah,
I
same.
got it with the God of War. Have you played the first God of War yet?
I played it back when
I
it
think it
came
comes in
out.
the PlayStation Plus stuff. The first
It
one does.
does, yeah, yeah. If you get PS Plus, you can get it. Yeah, but I played it back when it came out on the PS4 back in 2018 or whenever it was.
Okay.
But I didn't finish it. I don't remember why. I think I just kind of like it was one of those things. I have a hard time with games because I need to like when I sit down to play a game, I need it to be like the next 3 nights or however long it takes, I'm going to finish this game, right? Because if I play it for like a night or 2 nights and then don't finish it and then go do something else and then I don't think about it for 2 weeks and I come back, it's like I've forgotten what all the control like my combo buttons are, right? And like
I mean, maybe the
I just
game
feel like
it's
I get too far out of the loop. I don't know. So I think it was like that kind of situation where I like played it for a couple nights, didn't finish it, and then like didn't think about it for a month, and then came back and I was like gonna sit down to play it, and I was like, man, I don't even remember what was happening. I just felt so removed from the story and the world and stuff like that.
damn. I thought the game was pretty good, but apparently you did not like it as much. If you forgot
Well, I
about
liked
it.
it. I just didn't finish it. I don't for whatever reason, whatever was happening in my life back in 2018, who knows.
All right. Well, we had a lot of tournaments this weekend. So we got a lot to cover as far as that goes. And I guess we should probably start with.
Oh no, but first we were
Um,
gonna quickly mention a
oh,
new
I thought we were gonna
card that
mention
came
this later
out.
with the. We can mention it now though. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's just real quick because it's just one little card. So, yeah, I mean, there was a couple card reveals this week, but really only one worthwhile one to talk about. So we just wanted to briefly mention it and give our opinions on it, and that is going to be another card from the Pokemon Card 151 set, Cycling Road. So really kind of basing everything around that first generation of the Pokemon games. Um, but yeah, pretty unique effect here on the stadium card. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand. If they do, that player draws a card.
Yeah. So we've seen this a couple times. Scorched Earth. No, not Magma Basin. What's the
Heat Factory
Heat
Prism Star.
Factory? Discard fire energy. Draw 3 cards. That one was pretty good. And then also the other one that I just mentioned was Magma Basin, which like Magma Basin had to be underplayed. Maybe there was just no good fire decks back then. But
Your
Magma Basin,
bro, Magma
oh,
Basin is
Scorched
the
Earth, not
current.
Magma Basin. Scorched Earth had to be underplayed.
Okay.
Discard 1 fire energy, draw 2 cards. That's Radiant Greninja.
Well,
Like
it
I don't
wasn't
know.
fire, just fire energy as well, though. It
Oh,
was
it's
fire
fighting as
or
well,
fighting energy.
and
Yeah.
no one played it. No one played it at all.
Yeah. It was like plating Primal Groudon,
I
but
don't know. We had
Primal
like
Groudon
Parallel
wasn't very
City.
good.
We had Parallel
Yeah.
City and what was another? Parallel City was obviously
Skyfield.
broken. Power Plant was also a thing, right?
Skyfield.
Skyfield. Yeah, man, maybe just stadiums were really good back then. But
Dude,
I
Skyfield's
want to
one of
get
the
back to
best they've
that.
ever made.
Yeah, I want to get back to that though, where we have a lot of really powerful stadiums, and there's like more stadium wars kind of going on. Because I feel like what do we have right now? I guess it is a little bit right now, but they're all like I don't know. They're
It's just
everything is
path. It's
all the
all path.
stadiums. Well, no, it's Path, and then you have like Mezagoza. Collapse is like the only. But the thing is, like none of the stadiums you're like. Besides Path to the Peak, are you like trying to like stadium war to keep your stadium in play for multiple turns? Everyone's just like, oh, I got my value off Mezagoza. I'm gonna even go ahead and bump it with my own Lugia. I don't even want it to stay in play for another turn. Or I use my Collapse Stadium to discard my Pokemon, but I don't even want it to. I don't even care if it stays in play for another turn, right? Like Path is the only one where you're like you care if it stays in play for multiple turns. I guess that's kind of the biggest thing because even like Beach Court and Lost Box, like you got your retreat off. So you didn't have to use like a gate, and now you can attach your Sableye and attack with Sableye for turns. Like, okay, I got my one beach core use off. But I guess a beach core's maybe the one where it's like, okay,
I
if
think
this,
that
but it's not like you're running like 4 beach core to keep them in play, right?
I think this just comes with the nature of games being less turns, right?
Yeah, there's less value in trying to win the stadium war.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, if as Lugia your game lasts 4 turns, I mean, you just need the Messagoza to hit 1 heads, and you go get your Archeops or your Lugia V Star,
collapse
whatever
away
piece you
one
need.
liability and
Yeah, exactly, and
we
that's like just
cook.
all the swing you need.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, I mean, I talked about so just back to the Cycling Road as well. So I talked about this a little bit whenever Artisan got revealed, which is another new stadium coming out where the player gets to search a deck for a basic Pokemon and put it directly on the bench. That's not a rule box Pokemon. Um, I'm just kinda not a big fan of these cards that it's, like, just vanilla can be played in anything. I like it whenever it's something like Brooklet Hill, where it only works for a certain type, or Scorched Earth, where Heat Factory Prism Star, one of those things where it only
Diamond
works for a
Basin.
certain type, so it gives a
Yeah.
big edge and gives yourself a big reason to play that type, or whenever you want to play a new Pokemon that comes out that is that type, you know, "Oh, it has this support that other types don't have access to, that makes this really
Yeah.
powerful." Whenever it's just, like, a blanket solid card, I mean, it's, like, okay, but then it
They're never
doesn't
that
feel
good because
unique,
otherwise
right?
yeah, they're never that powerful because otherwise it'd be, like, too much, right? Everyone could take advantage of it. We'd all be playing 2 cycling roads that discard energy, draw 3 cards or whatever in every single deck or whatever. Yeah, it'd wanna be
Yeah.
can't make it too broken. It could be cool in, I was thinking it could be cool in Guardy as a counter stadium, right? Because more ways to discard energy is cool, and then usually a counter stadium, if you feel like you're not getting the full value out of, like, the Sinnohs or the Collapse or Champions Festival, whatever, then more cycling and you still need bumps for path, right? So, like, more ways to cycle through your deck, not bad. And then also, I think I was thinking maybe Lost Box for a little bit, but you don't really have that much energy to work with in Lost Box. You don't want them all in
Mhm.
your discard pile that fast. So it probably doesn't work in Lost Box.
Yeah.
But I guess in the future we could always see it kind of function with some kind of deck. So it's not great. And I do kind of agree with you though. I like and that's where we've seen the more powerful stadiums, right? Because it's like you can tailor it to what does this type have that it can utilize, and where do we give it like a little bit more of an edge over other decks, but not make it broken. Because like all the powerful stuff a certain type has. Like in the past we've had the like Giant Hearth. It's like not
Yeah.
just for fire decks, but also for welder decks in general. But that was like, okay, we know what decks can take advantage of this, and it doesn't seem like it's like makes it broken, broken, broken. But if you gave everyone discard find 2 basic energy, that'd probably be too good. Discard 1 card, find 2 basic energy like Giant Hearth did. So limited to just fire stuff, it makes that stuff good, which is fine. So yeah, it would be cool to see more type or even like kind of strategy relevant cards. And I guess Collapse Stadium is kind of like that, but like stuff like Skyfield, where it's like not everyone really wants 8 bench Pokemon, but some people do, or some decks do, and more decks that kind of are trying to take advantage of certain stadiums like that. Like maybe even one. I can't even think of another one to be honest, but something like that for sure could be cool again.
Yeah, I guess you could argue those Skyfield's probably, like, just a blanket good card as well, right? Like, pretty
Yeah,
much
but like if you had it right now, would any
oh,
decks play
less
it?
less so, less so.
Yeah,
And
you'd have to
like you said as well, this
public.
is just kind of like an okay
Yeah,
effect.
yeah,
But I think like some turbo deck somewhere along the way will probably utilize
yeah.
this card, and
Put that in
also like
Kyurem.
I can see this being used with like Dark Patch or something like that, right? Another card in the format that another
Oh,
strategy.
this could be it. Dark V starts charging up. It's getting there we go. That's part of cycling road. Let's go. I can
Get
see
in
that.
there.
All right, but yeah, interesting stadium card. Still feels like there's a little bit lack of really powerful stadium cards besides like Path, but hopefully we get there
Yeah,
eventually. But yeah, a lot of results this weekend. I guess we could start off with Portland, because that's the one I was at. Unless you want to start with a different one, but I was thinking we start with Portland.
yeah, that's fine.
Um, Portland regionals, like I mentioned, I played Lost Box, top 32. Played the same deck as Grant Manley, who got top 8. But the tournament overall was taken down by Arctina, which
Yeah,
I don't think and either of us thought like too highly of.
I'm
Um,
pretty sure last week you literally said Arctina isn't a real deck.
that's what I said about Lost Tina.
No, it was
Did I say about
about
Arctina?
Arctina
Oh,
because
was I?
we were wrapping up the decks we were
No,
talking
Lost
about, and I was
Tina.
like, "Is
Lost
there any
Tina.
other deck you wanna talk about?" And you were like it was like, "There's, like, the Arctina stuff," and you're like, "That's not a real deck." That definitely happened. Someone in the
Maybe
YouTube comments
happened.
from last week's episode said something about it.
Oh, maybe I did. I just thought like Arctina has always felt really mid. I feel like it's just kind of like worse Mew. But maybe it's just better Mew. Maybe Mew is worse Arctina because it took down another uh what is it, the Singapore regional as well. But yeah, we can take a look at the list. And the list is like super straightforward. Like there's nothing super special that's happening here, right? It's just Arctina.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple, like, maybe kinda unique things. So, yeah, first off, shout
Gloves.
outs to Landing Kettler on getting the win, being a regional champion. It's a small group of players, right? So, congratulations there. But, yeah, some very unique things. It's kind of vanilla, but there's also, like, a couple unique things here. So, we see the
Yeah.
one cleansing gloves in there. Lets you hit for 310 onto Guardi EX with your Giratina V-Star. Have to
Yeah.
imagine that's pretty much the only reason for it.
Yeah, and
It
it doesn't
can
hurt
also do the same thing to
your
Mew VMAX, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah.
but
Yeah, so like that's why you play 2 choice spells so you can 1 KO Mew VMAX. But the option to KO 1 hit KO Guard EX is like really good as well. Because otherwise they can kind of sit there and slow the game down. Or while you're trying to slow the game down, then kind of match you in that pace of just being like, well, I'll just attack with the Guard EXs, right? I have everything I needed, but you can't 1 hit KO me, so I guess we're just both chilling. But the cleansing
yeah.
gloves lets you get over that for the turn they're trying to stall out.
He also had, 2 trekking shoes in here, which feels like a little
Little filler.
random almost. I don't know, what do you think of that?
I mean, once you feel like you've maxed all the cards you would possibly need in the deck, you just want to see those cards more often. I don't know,
But
not
there's
playing
3
four.
research in here, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was gonna go
surely
with. Like, you only need so many supporters, right? There's also 4 boss, right? So you're basically you're saying once I set up, I probably want to play a supporter each turn. I mean, sometimes you want to hit their active, sometimes you want to boss a bunch of Pokemon, but the shoes do feel a little off. But like once you like, I mean, it was like back in the day when I played like Yveltal Garb and I had like 2 trainers mail. It was like I don't really want another research. I kind of just want to be able to see potentially everything if I whiff it when I play a research or play an N, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty
That's
sure
good.
back
Kind of
then,
feels
didn't
with
you
the shoes.
call Trainer's Mail, computer search? It, like, just always got you what you wanted?
Yeah. Well, if you play a research and then whiffed a max elixir, your trainer's mail is going to probably hit a max elixir, right? Like
It's a
you're digging
computer search,
11
right?
deep. Yeah, yeah. That's how it felt. Like when you whiffed a floatstone or the max elixir, you're probably like, well, I have the trainer's mail. I'm going to go. And you already played 4 floatstone and 4 max elixir. I'm just going to go a little bit deeper. And there it is. So Check and Choose not as good as trainer's mail for doing that, but it couldn't find anything, which is something, right? Um, Actually, because like I don't know, the big thing I could see like Trek and Choose kind of doing it can be anything. The biggest thing I could see it though is like, do you really want to play more than 14 energy? Not really. But you also don't want to whiff turn one attachment. So having that little bit of extra extension to potentially find the turn one attachment sounds kind of nice, right? But do you really want to play like 15, 16 energy? Probably not. That gets really redundant if you just hit the energy, right? So I
Energy
feel like it
Lotto
might
is a
be
card in the format.
yeah, but you don't wanna have it just find energy, right? Because it get that that's what I'm
I
saying, 'cause you're not
understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we did see it in the other list, we could even, like, mention that right now. Singapore was also won by Argentina. We could pull that up right now. We'll kinda go
Yep.
back and forth between some of these, probably we're not gonna just gonna stay on one regional when there's so many results to talk about. Also won by Argentina, 3 trekking shoes, so had 3 computer searches compared to 2. That seems like value to me.
Mega value. Had less research as well and one less boss's orders, but a key card for both of these players had the little Squavette, which I think was
Yeah.
probably the talk of
The
Twitter for
tournament.
the
Yeah.
entire for the entire post tournament. I mean, if anyone has not seen Landon's top 4 match against Grant Manley, I mean, in 2 games, just hit the absolute perfect 1 card off of Squavette's nest stash without even having Bibarel in play. I mean, it was pretty
Was it just,
absurd.
like how many nest dashes total were, like, was it just 2? Was there more than 2
I
optimal
think there
nest
was like a
dashes?
third one that he got something really. I don't remember exactly what it was. Grant seemed to
Okay.
think there was 3 that Landon got like exactly what he needed, right?
Well,
But
that kind of reminds
it
me
definitely
of
happened twice where Landon got exactly what he
yeah.
needed.
The only other time I've heard of something similar to this was when Pram lost in Worlds Finals, where it
Mm,
was who did Pram lose to again? I forget who it was.
Yamato. Or no,
Yamato. No, I forget. I completely forget
oh,
who
I'm
it was.
tripping.
Um, yeah, basically they hit like the perfect trade off, like 2 or 3 turns in a row or something ridiculous. Like Pram basically had the game locked up. The chance that Pram lost from the situation, if I remember the story correctly, and I've heard it a couple times from Pram. Um, yeah, basically the board state was like locked up.
Yuta.
Yuta. And then Yuta just like traded. And anyone who doesn't know what trade off is, it was Uxie level X. Look at the top 2 cards of the deck. You take one, you put the other on the bottom of your deck. And it was like 2 or 3 turns in a row, just like trade off, hit the card, trade off, hit the card, trade off, hit the card. And Pram's deck ability locked your opponent as well. So they were under like a lot of lock pressure. There's also judges in the deck. And the SP deck, which is what Yuta was playing, wants to try and build up a hand and have all these different options turn to turn. But when you're getting ability locked or Poke Power locked back then, plus their Judge disrupting your hand. Judge was a card back then, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Judge has been around a while. Judge still taking name. This is where this famous picture from, or famous in the Pokemon TCG community, a Pram laying back and being like, again. I think that's after the winning trade off right there.
Yeah, and this was
Um,
the this is a reply to Grant's tweet as well.
oh shoot, yeah. Jake is on the exact same wavelength with it then. For sure. That's because that's what came to mind when I didn't actually watch the fight. I was on a flight when the whole all the games were playing out, or was at the airport. I don't remember, but yeah, I didn't watch it. But yeah, as soon as I heard the story, the tales of the Squavette, I was like, that just reminds me of Rams finals match there, and it yeah, apparently I wasn't the only one who it reminded them of.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those type of moments. But I mean, hey, also we have to say Landon played to his outs, right?
Of course, gotta
Sometimes
play.
you just got to go for that raw, hit the one thing you need, and sometimes you just get it.
Of course. Yeah,
Insane,
so I don't know
insane.
how good Squavette was for cash. who took down Singapore Regional. So shout out to Cash on getting the big dub.
I think Cash
Um,
tweeted that it was like pretty good. Let
really,
me see.
I mean, comboing with B Barrel is good. I don't know how many optimal, like perfect Squavettes is the perfect card happen for Cash, but um,
Oh, here's the clip as well I'm showing on, uh, Twitter. I'm not gonna have the audio play, but yeah, you can see Landon just having a nest stash. Grant shuffles the deck. Nothing
see that's
malicious or shady going on here. Boom, here comes the Squavette. Use it, nest stash, shuffle the hand. We're gonna throw it straight to the bottom. This situation as well, by the way, Grant has just attacked with Dragonite to tie the game 4-4 prize cards. Landon has attached for turn already, has put a double turbo energy onto this Giratina V-Star. So off of this nest stash, if Landon does not find Giratina V-Star or like a research to try to find Giratina, Landon
game just is
is
over.
only
Yeah,
going to do 140 damage this turn. And then Grant
yeah.
is just going to one hit KO the Giratina and just Grant cannot lose the game from that point.
Well,
And
I don't know. There's a Raikou on the bench there, right? Or am I tripping? So
so,
yeah, you could then follow up with Arc, but
but yeah,
pretty good.
Landon
Yeah.
just hits it and Grant throws his hands up like just cannot believe it. Cannot believe that it
Yeah,
happened.
because Ultra Ball doesn't work at that point. Did Grant know there was the Squavette was coming down, or like because the Squavette was in hand after the shuffle? Did they Ultra Ball for the Squavette?
He nest balled for
Landon?
it.
Oh, Nestballed for it?
Yeah.
Dude, that's where you call for a judge shuffle, bro. You do not want to decide your own fate in that kind of situation. That's what I do in those
Put
situations.
it in
Whenever
someone
like,
else's hands.
yeah, I don't like putting in my. I did a judge shuffle this event. My opponent need to get a challenge care off a B barrel for one. They shuffled their deck up, and I was like, all right, I don't want to pick. I don't want to cut, tap, or shuffle. So I called over a judge. They did it. This is actually the first time my opponent has whiffed off a judge shuffle. So I'm like
Your
one in
opponent normally
four.
hits it.
Yeah, but I don't. But even when they hit it, I don't feel like I don't have that. You know, everyone. It's like a mental. It's to keep you mentally stable. You don't want to like cut and then be like, they draw it and you're like, well, I should have tapped then, right? Or I should have shuffled and right. It just like mentally relieves yourself of the pressure, and the outcome is like theoretically the same if you do it or if they do it. But you know, now you couldn't have done something different. Put it in the judge's hands. Always feels a little bit better. It was the next card though. It was close. It was the Charon Scare was the card after the one.
But
um,
yeah, so Arctina gets the win. And it was a deck, honestly, I don't think that, I mean, like we talked about, it didn't seem like either of us really was talking about it. It doesn't feel
yeah.
like it was super high on anyone's radar for this event. It was definitely much more talked about going into EUIC. It didn't do great at EUIC, so kind of a lot of people wrote it off. What made it have like a really solid finish to the point where it wins 2 tournaments this weekend? Like, why did it, like, what in the meta happened that made it so good? Or was it just kinda
It's a
lightning
little bit.
striking twice in the same place?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like that. The deck is like solid. And like I have been kind of saying, it just feels like worse Mew. But maybe it's just better Mew because there's Mew's a little bit worse against like Lost Box decks. Maybe that's it, right? Like Lost Box still very popular, kind of everywhere. Um, and maybe that's just kind of it. You definitely have a better Lost Box matchup as the Arctina than the Mew because the primary win condition with both decks is Judge Path and then be able to hit hard, right? And kind of knock out anything you put in front of them or just kind of win the prize race if you kind of ignore their main attacker, right?
Mhm.
So like yeah, if you ignore Mew VMAX, can't want to KO Mew VMAX, they're usually doing pretty good. Judge Path pretty disruptive. Actually, that was one thing I was surprised to see in Cash's list. Only 3 path. Um, but there's not that many stadiums in the format, I guess, currently. And then like up against like decks specifically like Lost Box, they only play like 2 stadiums. They do have the vacuums now, though, I guess. And then up against like it'd be really up against Gardevoir where you want like the maybe the 4 path. But if you go up against like Lugia, you're kind of betting on slowing them down with that initial judge path for at least a turn. Because once they kind of break out of that and use their V-Star, paths don't matter anymore anyways. So the
Yeah.
Guardian matchup specifically, I think is where you'd want the 4 path. But other matchups, the 3 seems like reasonable to get away with, to be honest. That was like the biggest thing that kind of stood out to me from the list changes as well. And then also, I guess landing go with like kind of the more straightforward build, one less switch card, no pal pad. Yeah, it felt a little bit more straightforward overall, but just not by a whole ton. And then I guess yeah, because like Catch had one less research. The Charon's Care was in there. No Charon's Care, I guess, was like a pretty big or a decent takeaway as well. Really good in the Lost Box matchup, but the time to find it and try and make it work correctly is tough. It's like a one of, you're not gonna be able to, you don't get to like cherry pick your cards with this deck, right?
Yeah, 1 turn you get to, right? You get 1
That's
turn to
true.
cherry pick any card, and maybe that's what Cash wanted to do, right? Just have that 1 turn, because like, Lost Box, I feel like, Sharon's Care carries the most weight against Lost Box, right?
Yeah.
Um and Lost Box does not disrupt your hand. So if you just need one more piece to
Birth
it,
into
like
it.
say you attached to your Arceus and then they Cramorant hit your Arceus, and then next turn you go Evolve, Attach, Knockout. They maybe cram you again. They maybe Greninja spread some damage. They're probably not KOing their Arceus, and if they do, it's with a two
Yeah.
prize Pokemon, which you can KO with Giratina or another Arceus potentially with three
Yeah.
basic energy on it. So then you have the Sharon's Care in hand.
Yeah, Lee did pull that playoff against me where I attacked with Dragonite, took out an Arceus V, and then next turn they went Starbirth, Raihan plus Starbirth, held one card, and I was like, I know it's Sharon's Care.
Yeah.
I couldn't find my boss or my escape rope to kind of hit something else besides the active Arceus. So yeah, it definitely is like a pretty punishing play into Lost Box for sure. If you can pull it off, because then I just had to settle for punching the active. Um,
But yeah, congrats to both these winners with their Argentina. And I guess while we're talking about winners, let's just talk about Sao Paulo real quick,
yeah,
which was won by Felipe Solis playing Lost Box. And pretty similar to the build you guys played. Did
just kind of
have the
turbo.
Drapion in here and a Raihan is kind of the big differences. Double boss as well, but overall kind of similar. Did have the Sky Sealstone in addition to
Yeah.
Forest Sealstone, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so the big difference, and we've seen that a little bit
Oh
more
yeah,
from
no
doing like
Kyogre as
the
well.
no Kyogre is like the big difference. And the reason I like Kyogre is like to kind of talk about that is like Kyogre just gives you a way better Lugia matchup and Arceus matchup. Like having that extra pressure of like a win condition, you don't need it in either matchup, but if you don't have it, the games can get a lot more linear for the Arceus player or the Lugia player and make it so you need to like I don't know, kind of get a lot cooking. So the Kyogre covers like those big Pokemon with lots of HP matchups. But yeah, Turbo, and that was like most what was doing pretty well in general. Turbo, right? It's like the probably the number one played Lost Box build right now. One of the other top four lists from Portland was pretty interesting. This one was a little bit more straightforward. Yeah, the Sky Seal Stone making its way in there. It probably just wanted like a more secure Mew matchup. That's like the biggest thing it does, I feel like. Of course, you can kind of chase a Lugia V-Star against Lugia with your Raikou plus Sky Seal Stone. They do have the double boss in there. That's why you kind of play the double boss. So when you're comboing with Sky Seal Stone, you want that, flexibility to be able to chase stuff down. Yeah, pretty like besides like the Sky Seal Stone, pretty like standard as far as turbo lists go. I guess the Raihan in there, I guess, is not super standard either. But yeah, I mean, Turbo Lost Box, no surprise that it won, and especially because it did beat a Mew in the finals as well, which is a pretty good matchup for it, especially with the Seal Stone.
Yeah, and the Drapion as well, right? And that's another matchup where Kyogre is really good. So, I mean, I think it makes sense, right? If you're not playing Kyogre, Drapion gets like a lot better for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we can take a look at the Mulus as well. There's some cool technology in there. This isn't unknown technology. The Pidgeotto Dreepy trap your Greninja or Manaphy against Guardy, if they open the Manaphy, of course, and then up against Lugia, trap the Serena or a Luminion in the active with the Dreepy as well. You do 0 damage. They can't retreat. They don't play ways to attack with those Pokemon usually. And then you infinite your deck with the Pidgeot V, and you play the Collapse Stadium Vacuum in the deck as well to be able to make sure you can shore up your own bench space. So Mew, showed up in a couple. There's two of them in top eight. We only have two of the lists here from the Sao Paulo regional, unfortunately. Not the
Yeah.
other ones aren't uploaded yet. But yeah, Mew showing up's no real surprise. I am surprised to see them actually play the Dreepy because I feel like most Guardians and Lugias are all playing like an out to the Dreepy shenanigans right now.
Yeah, Penny was pretty popular overall. Oh gosh, and I just clicked on the Pokestats live of this guy who got second with Mew. Look at this just wave of Gardevoir that this
That's a
person played
lot.
against. One, two, three, four, five, six Guardy in or sorry, in five in day one, and then
That's
one round
why
one of day two. Like
that's why you
that's
only see one
crazy.
in day two because they beat them all in day one.
Yeah, all on the back of Damien here. Shoutouts to Damien just shutting down Gardevoir. Literally hit it 4 rounds in a row. What the heck?
Jeez. That would be
Including defeating
annoying.
Gustavo in round 8 as well.
That would be annoying. Playing against that
But
many.
yeah, so we don't have
Um,
lists from any more of these players. I mean, we see a lot of the usual, top players: William Asvendo, Yurko Valencia making top four
mhm.
as well in here, Guardy and Lugia respectively. Overall, like I mean, looking at the results of all of these tournaments, one thing we're definitely not seeing is like 6 of the same deck in Top Cut, which is kinda great, right? Especially
Yeah.
considering what we've, I guess, become used to. I mean, we did see 3 Lost Box, I guess, from Portland, but
There's
Lost
also
Box is
3
a deck
in
that's
Sao
always gonna be,
Paulo.
like, pretty different. Like, all 3 of the builds are pretty different, right?
Yeah, it's like the Kyogre build. Maybe as aggressive of a turbo build as you can get from Gantner from Portland. We obviously don't see the other lists here from the other players from Sao Paulo, but there were still 3 lost box in top 8 from Sao Paulo as well.
Yep.
So, but yeah, they are so different, right? Like even if one of those could be Sablezard as well, right? And like that's still kind of I think listed as lost. Maybe that is listed differently here on Limitless. Actually, I don't even know to be
I
honest. I'm
think
gonna
it
go check.
usually is.
Yeah, okay. So maybe that is listed different. I can check London. That's where there's like some Sablezards. But yeah, I guess, but they're so the difference. The builds are different, right? Like Grant was playing the Kyogre build at Portland. Gantner, if you want to pull up Gantner's list right now, is a pretty interesting list.
Hmm.
Gantner was playing like the Turbo. Like this is as turbo as it gets. No, Comfy and Sableye, what are the sprites? You can't really tell who's playing Sablezard and who's not. But yeah, this is like as turbo as you get, I think, right? Like triple vacuum, Ultra Ball, and Luminion. And Luminion is something we haven't seen for a while in Lost Box builds, and was always kind of questionable. I feel like it's more questionable now because you don't have Quick Ball and you have to play Ultra Ball. Which, if you don't know this, if you get judged and you're playing Lost Box, the last thing you want to see is an Ultra Ball to have to go find a basic Pokemon. So,
Yeah, and then also like discard probably two pretty important things from
yeah,
your hand
yeah,
as well. It's a little tough, but yeah, I mean, we saw Ultra Ball a little bit at the end of last format, but it was in versions of the deck that were playing evolutions, like Aerodactyl V-Star, right? Like they
yeah,
wanted a
yeah.
way to
That's
find
definitely different.
their evolution Pokemon. So yeah, this is definitely a unique build. And even the graphic that went up on the stream as well showed for the top 8 decks, it showed that Andrew was playing the two cards that showed for the graphic. It was like Comfey Ultra Ball. So like that was the card he picked as his card to go up on streams. The thing that made
Yeah.
his deck unique, I guess. Also does have
Actually,
the one Roxanne in here as well.
a little bit of mirror
Most
tech.
likely for a mirror tech, yeah, instead of
Yeah.
having something like Halucha, which is what a lot of people tend to go with, it feels like.
And that might have been one of the reasons for Luminion, to be honest, because it is such a good. It actually is pretty good in Mirror because you can get it back into the deck. Of course, that's a turn you're maybe not using Sableye, so you'd want to do it like turn 2. Like if you go first, do it turn 2 and shuffle it back to the deck immediately after you find your Culvers with it. But yeah, I'm not sure I like that whole Ultra. Like playing Ultra Ball in there just sounds so bad. Like if Nestball could find Luminion and then you could use the ability, that sounds good. Like I even I was sitting next to Gantner one round and they used Ultra Ball, and I looked over at them and I was like, that doesn't seem very efficient. It's just like that's so costly in a Lost Box deck. But
Yeah.
yeah, they killed it. Yeah, Super Turbo. Like I said, actually, you mentioning that, and other people did it too. Like the Landon's graphic was Arceus and Squavette, right? And stuff like that. So it's like it's kind of funny. It's kind of a meme, but I mean, to be honest, you guys got the caches back there. You guys can figure it out. I actually think it's like bad for like newer players to like see the decks imaged like that. I get
I
it. It's like
agree.
kind of like a joke. And you got the caches back there. You don't need to ask the players what the best card, like what cards they want there to showcase off in their deck, because Lugia is Lugia and Archeops. Maybe you'd put like the single strike Urshifu for what Reagan played, right? Because Reagan had the single strike Urshifu. Maybe you would do that
Yeah.
to like specify that build. Sablezard is just Sableye and Charizard. Lost Box is Comfy and Greninja. Like I think it's better for like people who are trying to, and I feel like that's like a big part of the streams as well. Is like you want people who are not into Pokemon, don't know about the game very well, to be able to digest it more easily. So like the is
This graphic was honestly just a bit of a mess as well. There's like
that the wrong
the
Flaffy?
the wrong Flaffy.
Yeah, like
Duraludon
this
is
is
not
so
spelled right.
bad. um, So yeah, like yeah, that is bad. Like the Ultra Ball, like obviously shouldn't be there. Squavette shouldn't be there. The only thing that you could like maybe argue is like Archeops should be something. But yeah, I feel like just like for people to be able to digest digest the stream a little bit better, they should put like like Shemansky should be probably a Kyogre instead of the Cram. You can maybe argue the Moltres, but
Yeah.
make it more easy to digest for like newer players and stuff. So just like look at if you're gonna ask the players what they want as their cards, this is what you're gonna get. So I don't put it on the players themselves. They're trying to just have fun with it. Production staff, you got some casters back there. If they don't know how Pokemon works, you should fire them and get some new ones. But they do, so you should just ask them what cards to put for the decks on the stream graphics. It's not too hard. You can figure it out. I believe in you, I think. But yeah, a little rant there on the production side of things for the Pokemon stream.
Yeah, no comment. All right. We can look at the rest of yeah, we haven't talked about Reagan's deck yet.
Yeah, we can go there next. Actually,
Yeah.
I thought Reagan was playing it, but apparently it wasn't Reagan. But someone was playing a basic water in their Lugia deck, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought it was Reagan, 'cause I sat next to Reagan a ton of like, I sat next to Reagan, like, a million times throughout the day.
Maybe it was one of his
Um,
opponents one round.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, but someone was playing a basic water energy, which I had thought of, which I had thought of. I was like, "Well, you get to get Luminia out of there." Finding it sounds impossible, though. But if you do find it, all of a sudden, you can, like, remove a huge win condition from your side of the field of your opponent chasing your Luminion. Of course, Collapse Stadium does that as well, so it's kind of, like, feels a little conflicting maybe. Maybe just play more Collapse Stadium.
Yeah, collapsed seems like the better answer. Reagan did also have another answer in here with that penny being an
Yeah,
option as
one of those
well, getting the
liabilities.
Luminion or Serena or Pumpkaboo out of there
Yo, you
if
could double Serena
necessary.
with Penny. I didn't even think of that until I just looked at this right now. Hey,
Mega healing. That's a lot of healing right there.
too bad there's no good spread decks in the format. That would really get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penny's cool. Like we were talking about with the Penny, right? Like a lot of people had the pennies and stuff. So like the whole Dreepy Pidgeot, obviously it worked out good enough for a second place over in Sao Paulo. I wonder how many times they actually use it to actually win games. But yeah, it seemed like almost everyone, every Guardy and Lugia that I played against, I'm pretty sure had a tech card. Like they had a way to beat Mawile. I'm pretty sure
So
when we weren't
Reagan
playing
did
against.
play the Urshifu VMAX. We talked about it a little bit last week, Duraludon versus Urshifu, and
Yep.
Reagan ended up going with the Urshifu. It's kind of like a meta call type thing. Maybe if Duraludon's going to be less popular, Urshifu's like a little what was it you said is like if Duraludon's a little less popular, Urshifu's a little better, right?
No,
Than
no,
Duraludon?
Duraludon's better. Like, if
Duraludon.
Duraludon's popular, you want Urshifu, but if Duraludon's
Yeah.
not popular, you
Okay.
want Duraludon. Because Duraludon's a more powerful way to play it, I think. It's more consistent around, like, abusing your big attacker. Because basically Duraludon one-hit KOs all the stuff that you'd want to one-hit KO with Urshifu, but your energy stays on your Duraludon, and you don't need to go find your urns and stuff. So there's, like, a chance that when you
Yeah.
pull off your big attack with your Urshifu, they just punch you, and then you go, okay, pass, right? Or something like that. So but with Duraludon, you get to go one a KO, and then it just attacks again for free, right? So Urshifu, you just need if there's a lot of Duraludon in the format. I feel like that gives you the edge because otherwise you're going kind of head to head Duraludon versus Duraludon. It's kind of just who gets boss first. But with your Urshifu, you can kind of always get through their Duraludon at least once, which is
Sure.
nice. So
So Reagan anticipating Lugias to probably have Duraludon, especially after EUIC, where two Lugias made top eight, both with Duraludon. And then maybe also respecting Arc Duraludon, which was still like a pretty popular deck. And speaking of which, one of those in top eight as well. And this is a pretty interesting
yeah,
build. Nathan Strafford's with Arceus Duraludon, Umbreon VMAX. So this is
Adventures
a
Discovery.
VMAX card we have not seen in a while. It's got 310 HP and it just for a dark and two colorless does 160 and it has a really strong ability dark signal. When you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with their active. So upon evolution, giving you a little bit of a gust option, pretty strong. Yeah, this is kind of a wacky deck, honestly. More I've looked
Yeah,
at it, there's just so many unique one ofs. There's three adventurers discovery in here.
gotta have
There's
all
a
three.
Halucha with no way for you to spread your own damage. So yeah, talk to us about what your thoughts were on
Yeah,
this, or maybe
I
what your thoughts
played.
were as you like heard about it at the
Well,
tournament.
actually, I played against Nathan.
Okay.
And I don't know. Yeah. So I played against Nathan, and I'd say the matchup was pretty close. Actually, I thought I was gonna get destroyed because like they got Lost City. Then they have Alakazam Halucha, which is really good when your best attacker is Dragonite and you spread
Yeah,
some damage on your Comfies. Um, and yeah, so that's like what the whole Alakazam Halucha thing is there for. So take it. So like, oh well, Lost Box's best attacker is Dragonite. How do you deal with that? Or how do you even like take advantage of that and get ahead? And Alakazam being able to like, if you spread, you've got like four Pokemon and eventually attack with Dragonite, which you probably usually do, maybe five. It's a lot of damage to play for Alakazam to work with over a couple turns. It's not quite fast enough by itself, though. I don't think the Alakazam. So you got the Halucha in there to speed things up a little bit towards the end game to get ahead in the prize exchange. And then it helps you even like if they get like a turn one Dragonite or going first turn two Dragonite, you could even like pull off a choice belted Arceus plus Alakazam play to get the KO on the Dragonite as well. And you know, you got Starbirth, so you can find your cards pretty reasonably for at least one big combo. And Lost Box doesn't play any hand disruption, right? So you can kind of build up towards it and kind of know it's guaranteed on that following turn. So it's really cool for the Lost Box matchup. The Umbreon in general is really good against the Guardy matchup. Be able to aggressively chase down Guardy EXs and stuff.
hmm
So yeah, the next cool overall. Then obviously you have it also lets you like kind of chase down If you go up against like a Lugia build that has Duraludon or Urshifu with the Umbreon in there, you get to more aggressively kind of chase stuff down. And then you have the Volo in there, which can kind of fix your bench, so that way the Lugia player can't just kind of return chase stuff off your bench and ignore your Duraludon. So it's a really cool build of an Arceus deck. I don't know if this is better or maybe something more like just like Arctura. Probably not with the Vulpix, but maybe with something else moving forward. Shemansky actually tweeted out a really cool updated build on what they used to win uh, UIC. And then we also saw LeBoy go 10-0 to start off with literally like Shemansky's almost exact 60 from UIC. I think there was a couple cards changed, but it was pretty close. So that deck still seems pretty good as well. So Arcdura, Arc in general, seems like it's in a good spot for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it feels like this is going to be the deck. Like you said, you don't know if Umbreon's the best thing to pair with it, but I feel like we're going to see Arctura plus
Something.
something at almost
Yeah.
every tournament, right? And even looking at a little sneak peek to, was it in Japan? That I think it was in Japan, which is next format. A top four deck was Arctina. I guess this is different because it's Arctina, not Art Gudra, but Arctina, but it had the Flying Pikachu VMAX in there. So like, I don't know, it's just Arceus plus friends
Yeah.
is like the strat, and it's not a bad strat. I mean, it's just showing Arceus one of the most versatile cards in the entire format, right? Such powerful ability, such powerful attack, and when you can accelerate 3 energy of any type out of the deck, you get to do cool things like this. Another card I wanted to mention in here is the one Karen's Conviction, which is a single strike card, and it says that during your turn, your single strike Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So the idea I am assuming with Karen is that once your opponent who is playing a Hisuian Gudra VSTAR has taken 3 prize cards, you send up Duraludon, you play Karen's, and you one hit KO their Gudra without having to think twice.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the value, the reasons for it. I talked to Nathan and Makani actually. This is what Makani played as well. Um, at the tournament a little bit. They said they had they mentioned another reason that they liked the Karen's Conviction. But yeah, obviously, yeah, works with the Gudra really well. Oh, I think it was like to like you can like one hit KO other people's Duraludons or like single strike Urshifus
Oh,
as well. Like
sure.
you have
Yeah.
all those
Other
kind of
high
options as
HP
well.
things.
Yeah. So if other big things get set up, you have a way to kind of answer them if you want. So yeah, it just gives you like I guess a little bit more flexibility with your Duraludon's damage. Yeah, the deck's really cool. I think yeah, like moving forward, is it going to be exactly like this? I don't know, but this was pretty good. This like seemed pretty good after playing up against it. Like the deck, Adventure Discovery is like pretty smooth in the deck as well. Kind of gets everything you want set up pretty aggressively. So that's kind of cool as well. Like as long as you have Arceus V plus energy, Adventure Discovery literally gets you like everything else like set up for your future turn. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The Umbreon and stuff feels pretty good for sure. From what I saw,
I did kind of want to ask your thoughts about the
seems
Adventures
pretty good.
Discovery because it's always interesting to me whenever someone is choosing to play a search card over a draw card, right? So, to research in this deck, the a common, thought in most formats for the past like 10 years of the game has pretty much been, why would I play a supporter to go do something that an item card can do that I can draw off of a professor's research, right? Like I just want to see more cards. I want to get through my deck. I want to advance my board state. What makes this deck like a little different?
I think the answer to the question is always just like what is most consistent. And I feel like this is like having the adventure because like getting your Duraludon set up turn two, getting your Umbreon set up turn two, like those like big power plays are like so impactful that all you really care about is finding the V Pokemon, right? Because it also finds your Arceus V Star as well. Like if you get down Arceus V,
Yeah.
attach, pass, next turn, Adventure Discovery, V Star, maybe you nest well for the Umbreon. Now you do the Umbreon plus Arceus play or get your Duraludon set up immediately. It just like more consistently gets your Pokemon set up to where they need to be. So you don't have to worry about them getting picked off too aggressively or not being able to utilize them before your opponent. Um, before you can take advantage of them. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just all about setting up your Pokemon from to the big Pokemon as soon as possible. It feels like, and it combos really well with Umbreon as well, right? Because you can go Adventure Discovery, and then that becomes your Gust for turn instead of actually
Yeah.
having to play a boss, which is like pretty cool. So yeah, just like I don't know, I'd have to like play with it a little bit more. I didn't play with it at all, right? So I have to play with it a little bit. But like from what I saw, and like I said, I played up against Nathan, and like paid attention to a couple of other Nathan's games as they were playing because they were pretty close to me most of the tournament. Like the deck just seemed to function pretty well, for sure.
So one thing I did want to mention as well. I mean, we're talking mostly about Portland here. We've talked about the other tournaments too, but we're talking mostly about Portland because that's what was streamed. That's what we kind of had our eyes on. But there was also, I mean, it was the only tournament of the weekend that had one of these in Top Cut, and that is Maridon. So this is, even though Arctina kind of won, maybe seemingly out of nowhere, I think this has to be the biggest surprise of the weekend. Seeing not only just that it's Maridon in Top Cut, but the fact that it's this build of Maridon. Maridon, Flaffy, Magnezone. No Regieleki, nothing
Raichu.
like that. Yeah, it's got the Raichu in there, Raikou V as well. So and 3 Arven, 4 Serena. Like this supporter lineup is just absolutely wild. We've got all kinds of
The
different tools to get with your Arven. What were your thoughts here on this one, Azul?
I mean, like, everyone knows I'm not a huge fan of Ryan. I think it's terrible. My biggest thing is, like, I don't in this meta, it just doesn't feel great, and, like, one did get top 8. We did see one top 8 EUIC. Um, I don't know if any of them did very well in Singapore. There was no top 8s in Sao Paulo from the Maridon. I mean, it's, like, not the thing is just it's just not that unreasonable for I still don't think Maridon's very good. This list doesn't really change anything. It wasn't anything revolutionary enough for me to look at it and be like, "Oh, that just makes this thing broken." I guess if Maridon and Magnezone got popular enough, all you would see is like Lost on decks at a second mana fee, and then you would just like even with the Magnezone, I don't even know how favored you are. If that even makes you favored against Lost Box, I don't think it does. But if it ever got to the point where Martin got too popular, just puts like a mana fee in, and then now you just like still go from maybe having a chance against Lost Boxes to like auto losing. And I feel like your other matchups, this deck, like in Maridon's other matchups, aren't solved either. Like I feel like you still struggle against the Lugia and like the um what's the other one? Oh, Guardy. Like, yeah, I feel like those are still struggle matchups. Those are like all struggle matchups for Maridon. So them getting there is cool. I think Maridon is cool, but yeah, I just like it. Just it's not even a huge surprise for me that I got top 8. Um, but what was I gonna say? Uh, yeah, I'm still not sold on Maridon. So another top 8 from Maridon doesn't sell me yet. But it's a cool deck for sure.
Yeah, you say you're not surprised to see it make top 8, but in our predictions last week, you did predict highest placing
Top
Maridon would
64.
be top 64.
Yeah.
So Azul from last week is probably surprised. Azul from this week, less so though.
No, I wouldn't even be surprised. Pokemon like deck like this is what I would consider like a tier 3 deck, maybe tier 4 if I had
Sure.
to like redo a deck list. But that's like those decks making top 8 in Pokemon is like not that there's so many variants that happen throughout the whole tournament run. That any deck making top 8, I mean, it would have to be like a really bad deck to make top 8. Actually, now that deck I mentioned, I think the worst deck that's ever won a tournament is definitely because I talked about this. I don't know why this is coming to my mind right now. I talked about somebody the worst deck to ever win a tournament, and this won Worlds. Uh, was the Beedrill deck. That deck sucks. Every time I go back and play 2010 and play that deck, I'm like, it can't be that bad. It won Worlds, and then I play it again. I'm like, it's that bad. So if Beedrill can win 2009 Worlds, then Maridon getting top 8, nothing can be a surprise.
I
If
just bought this
Beedrill,
deck. I literally just bought the 2009 Worlds Beedrill deck at Charlotte Regionals. So
yeah, if that
pretty
can win
funny you bring
Worlds,
that
then
one up.
Maridon getting top 8 is nothing to be honest. But yeah, cool build. Shout out to Anthony Perez for the top 8. Um, And yeah, I would love to see more ride-ons in top 8 from here on out. I hope I am. See, this is the kind of situation where like I hope I'm wrong because I want more decks, cool decks, strong decks to be viable in the meta. So I'm down for ride-on to actually be a top deck and for me to be sleeping on it for sure.
So
And
we
yeah, I
did
think that
some predictions. Oh, go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead if you want to hit the predictions. I was just gonna mention there's also a Mew in top 8. The list isn't here for the Mew from Portland. I did play against Austin Drake on the winning in. That's who I lost. So I lost to Austin. They had the penny is the only thing crazy that I remember. Everything else was pretty vanilla. And then I guess we could talk about just the last thing we could mention was Shemansky's Lost Box. We had 3 different Lost Box builds in top 8. Grant was playing Turbo Kyogre, Gantner was playing Turbo Turbo, and then Shemansky was playing not as Turbo, but still had Kyogre. And this is basically the Moffat build. I think we can pretty easily give a shout out to Nick Moffat for this build. This is what they basically played at UIC. I think the only difference that I see here is there's a boss's orders where Nick played no boss at UIC. And yeah, it's like very one prize focused, heavy hitting options with the Snorlax and the Moltres and the Kyogre. So you got a couple different options for heavy hitters. And the biggest like thing with this compared to other Lost Box builds is there's no Battle VIP pass,
Yeah.
which I can definitely see being pretty good for the sake of trying to get the Kyogre off in the late game. Because as you go throughout the game, you can't play Battle VIP passes, which means they don't get thinned out of your deck. Which means when you get Rock Sand or judged in the mid or late game, there's a pretty high chance that you draw into more Battle VIP passes. But if you can play your level balls and your fog crystals instead of drawing to Battle VIP passes and not being able to play those, then you won't see them later on. So it's kind of like the one benefit of not
Yeah.
playing Battle VIP pass and Lost Box. But I don't know if it's worth the trade off of not being as aggressive on turn one. Your turn one crams definitely struggle if you don't go those Battle VIP passes sometimes.
Yeah, having no way to get rid of the VIP pass makes things pretty ugly, and maybe that's why another
No
reason. Hey,
Guru, bro.
the Ultra Balls in your Lost Box, right? Like, get rid of your
I don't know. I
VIP
think Gander
pass.
was going so fast it didn't matter. Like
Yeah, sure.
Gander was cruising. But yeah, that it made me miss Guru for sure. The amount of times I would draw into Battle
Yeah,
VIP Pass later, like the amount of times that yeah, you'd Guru the Battle VIP Pass on top, thin it out. So when you get Judge and Roxanne, or I guess back then Marnie throughout the game, just way less of a chance of seeing them anymore. Don't have to worry about them. But now you do. Now you do miss the Guru. I was kind
so
of
yeah,
calling
let's hit our
I was
predictions from last week.
I was calling Squavet the new guru. Like when you primate wisdom, like you're like, I'm missing my piece I'm missing my Lugia VSTAR, primate wisdom. Okay, there it is. Importantly,
Oh
Squavet can't do
gosh.
that for Lost Box. Squavet can't quite fix that problem that Lost Box has, but for other decks, it is kind of the new primate wisdom, it feels like, for sure. Banning
So
Squavet.
yeah, let's hit those predictions then from last week. So we talked about what we both thought the most played deck day one would be. You predicted Lost Box, I predicted Guardy,
It was
and your
close
boy was
by
right, but
point
only by
5.
6 players. Six
Yeah.
players made the difference between Lost Box being most played and Guardy being most played. Also, Gardevoir, you can't see it because Azul's face is in the way, but yeah, there you go. Gardevoir is spelled wrong on here as well. It says Gardevoir.
Gardevoir.
So
Oh,
that's a
that's
tough one
funny.
right there.
It was close though. I think it was a pretty easy prediction to guess those would be the top 2, right? That was the easy prediction.
Yeah.
A little bit harder to guess that point 5.
And then in day 2, you
Well, hang on.
predicted
Oh, yeah,
Mew
yeah.
to
Go ahead.
be the most popular. I predicted Guardy would hold strong, and we were both pretty wrong. Mew stayed the same, so went from 11% to 13% in day 2.
Yeah,
Guardy
predictable
dropped
Mew.
pretty heavy though, down to 2, and Lost Box shot way up. And then Lugia also having a really solid conversion rate, going from 11
Yeah.
to 16. What are your takeaways here on this one, Azul?
Lost Box usually has a negative conversion rate, right? They usually have less percentage in day 2 than day 1, so that's interesting. They've been even a couple times as well, so that's interesting for sure. A lot of good players did choose to play Lost Box, though. A lot of good players chose to play Lost Box. A lot of Lost Box towards the top tables and the win-ins and stuff like that. Lugia, not really a big surprise. Guardy falling off, of course. If Lost Box is doing that well, something has to suffer, and usually the thing that's suffering is the most popular day 2 decks good matchups, which is Guardy in this case. And then we see Miraidon predictably leaves the day 1 to day 2 uh, meta usage. And we see the Artina, of course, was rising up pretty well in from day 1 to day 2. It gets in there at 6% over the because Gujar was the same as well, right? From day 1. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
Miraidon leaves, Artina comes in. No real surprise. Lugia getting a bump. Like Lugia's a good deck. A lot of people like it. Mew kind of staying around the same, right? Lugia, we're never gonna see Mew like go from 11 to 20. Probably it's pretty bad predicting for me to guess Mew would be the most popular deck in day 2. I don't know what I was thinking to be honest thinking about it. Mew literally sits in the 10 to like 12% range. It got up to the 13 in the day 2 on this one, but
It is
yeah,
where
nothing
Mew
too shocking,
thrives.
right?
Yeah, nothing too crazy in this for sure. Other predictions were highest placing Miraidon. We already talked about. Azul predicted top 64. I hit it with the top 32, and it surpassed both of us, getting all the
Wonder
way into
where
top
the
8.
next one landed though. When I heard there was a Miraidon at table 1, I was like, "What?" It was like the round before the last round. I was like, "How did that happen? How is there a Miraidon up here?" Because I hadn't seen what like I had seen what pretty much everyone was playing as they made their way up toward the top tables. Because I was kind of there the whole time because I came in at 7-2 and won my first round, so I was like up towards the top tables
Yeah, 7
literally
0
the
to
whole of
7
day
2. What
2.
happened there, buddy?
Um, Lee made a misplay. I don't think it would have mattered in that one, and then lost to Nick Stewart with Artina. That one was a little tilting because I couldn't get the 2 games I lost. I couldn't get anything going. Like everything that could go wrong with your lost box, like went wrong. Like I think at one point in game 1, I was like, okay, so if I don't Greninja into like both energy here, or game 2, whatever one I lost, the first one I lost, if I don't Greninja into like 2 energy here or something like that, then I can or quote Comfy or something, and then I like Comfy to Greninja into 2 energy. I was like, okay, well, now I can't attack this turn. So that sucks. Like little things like that. Like, yeah. Had a couple of those matches where I felt like that.
Just
But a
typical
couple,
lost box things.
yeah, a couple of the matches as well where I definitely could have played a little bit better and could have pushed a little bit harder for some wins potentially. So, not all on the luck of the draw this time around. Definitely could have played better. Definitely. What were you talking about? I was gonna I had another comment I was gonna make. Um, no control in top eight. And then you asked me about what'd you ask me about? Oh, 7-0 to 7-2.
7-2 to
Yeah.
yeah, 7-0 to 7-2.
I
Yeah,
pulled it
yeah.
back after that though in day two for the first couple
Of
rounds. But yeah.
course.
Yeah, the Miraidon, I don't know how the Miraidon slipped by me, bro. When I heard that, I was like, "What the heck? Where did they come from?" Because I've been, like I said, I was up there at the top tables the whole day. I didn't see them.
Just
The one thing I was
big.
gonna mention though, uh, the Guardian matchup for Lost Box is way better than I thought it was, bro. Tord got away with it at EUIC for sure. I think Tord only played against one Lost Box and did beat him, but I had not really played the matchup that much at all. But after playing it this weekend, I had people like checkmated on like turn three. It felt like I just had double Sableye in play with psychic energies each, and I was like, you can't win. Yeah, that's the way it felt. I had one really close set where Kyogre made a comeback for me. Um, yeah, I like one race set where Kyogre made a comeback for me. But yeah, I played against how many guard did I play against? Five.
5,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. I like literally that matchup is so good. Like I don't think Guardy can be played anymore, to be honest. Like if you're playing Guardy now, you either have to commit to like the Klefki Mewtwo V Union stuff, or just commit to going 4-4 at future regionals from here. You have to commit to like I didn't know the matchup was that good until I played it this much. Um, so yeah, you either
Well,
got to
to be
commit to
fair, most
the
lost box
text
players
or
are not Azul Garcia Griego, right? Like
it's so bad though, dude. Like I never really like I didn't play like I played very few games of like Turbo Lost Box up against Guardy. Done more. I didn't even play like whenever I play Lost Box, I feel like I'm on PTCG Live. I feel like I never hit Guardies. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But after playing it through on this tournament, bro, I was like checkmating him on like turn three, turn four. I was like, this is just cooked.
we've been on this section for a while, so we do want to I do want to move on, but one thing
All
I
right,
do
send
just want to
us.
mention is well, you're talking about Guardy, 0 Guardian top 8.
Yeah,
The most
0.
popular deck day 1, probably pegged as the deck to beat coming into the tournament. 0 in top 8 of Portland. Um,
One in
there
top eight of Sao
was
Paulo.
1 in top 8 of Sao Paulo, yeah. So overall, just kind of like a middling performance, like a bad performance, I guess you'd even say, of Gardevoir on the
Um,
weekend. What leads to this?
I mean, it's just Lost Box is actually that good against it, right? I think
Yeah.
there was Guardy was overhyped leaving EUIC because of how well Tor did with it. Even
There were
I thought it was
2 in
better.
top 8 of the Singapore regionals.
Okay, yeah, even I thought it was better than it was, I think. That's because I didn't really know that the matchup against Lost Box was this bad. Um, yeah, and it's bad. Like if you're not doing the Klefki Mewtwo V Union stuff, both of them or at least one of them, and even if you do just Klefkis, eventually you have to like break the lock if you don't play Hatterini V. Then you just have two little schmucks on the bench waiting to get Sableye. Like, yeah, I just wouldn't play Guardy. You either have to commit to the text, and then all your matchup spread across the board goes down. Um, yeah, you either have to commit to the text, or your matchup across the board goes down, or just don't. You just expect a 4-4 because the Lost Box matchup is horrendous. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's literally the reason. And if people switch over to like the build that Shemansky played with like the Moltres, if that gets more popular, I think
Mhm.
that is the worst uh matchup for the Guardy deck because the Snorlax is really good against Guardy because you can hit heavy without using a two prizer. And then the Moltres would eat up Mewtwo V Union potentially or something like that. You could have an option against it. So yeah, you got to tech or don't play the deck. I think that's why. I think that's why it did so poorly. Because like the Lost Box matchup is actually just truly awful for Guardy. And those
Yeah.
people were on like the Turbo Tord build as well, right? There was not that many people. We saw Aiden Koos and Grant Shen playing the Mewtwo V Union Klefki builds, but I think they had a tough time going up against the Arceuses. The Arceus Tinas were tough for them.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like you're talking about, like they're leaning more into the lost box matchup, but losing points in the other matchups.
Yeah, you lose a lot of points. Goes down for sure.
Yeah. So a lot to still discuss with this format, and we'll see kind of how things develop. We'll talk a lot next week about the Hartford Regional Championships, which are just 2 weekends away. And we'll see how the meta develops moving into that one. But now, before we get into Guess That Flavor Text, we'll take a moment to thank our sponsor, Dragon Shield. So, of course, a huge thanks to Dragon Shield for being a sponsor of the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products and accessories on the market, including sleeves, binders, deck boxes, and much, much more. Azul, I assume you're rocking some Dragon Shields this weekend. What color you go with?
Yeah, so I'm a big And no one has to take my advice. I'm a big re-sleever. So day 1 to day
Azul is
2.
very particular about his sleeves. I see him between every single round. I don't have a deck here, but I see him between every single round, like analyzing all sides, making sure there's not even a tiny little nick somewhere that he can replace the sleeve.
Yeah, so I re-sleeved. I did 3 re-sleeves this event, or 2, I guess, because you initially start with sleeves. I was using the matte blues, which are all right, but one I've become like a color I've become a big fan of is actually the tangerines. I'm a big fan of
Ooh.
the matte tangerines, and I also had I also used a pack of oh no, I didn't. I think I only did resleeve twice. It's the matte blues and the tangerines. I had I did bring a set of the blood reds on me just in case. If I made top cut, I would have resleeved again, but I didn't make top cut. So just the tangerines and the matte blues this time. Matte blues, it's blue. Tangerine though, that is a pretty sick color. So that's one I definitely heavily recommend. You guys check out. And if you just want to pick up any of the Dragon Shield products, once again, huge shout out to them. You can check them out over at dragonshield.com/webshop/US if you're in the US or/EU if you're not in the US. And then also, of course, they're pretty much available at like any local card shops or like big box retailers. So, stuff like Walmart and stuff, I think even have them these days. So
Mhm.
you can pretty much get them anywhere. Amazon, whatever. You can find them. Dragon Shield sleeves, best sleeves in the business. That's why you can find them everywhere. So be sure to go check them out.
And with that, Azul, it is time to move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each week Azul or I will pick a card, read the flavor text, and have the other host try to guess which Pokemon that card comes from. There are a couple of options here. So if you guess the Pokemon correctly without using any of your 4 lifelines, you get 4 points, and there are 3 lifelines you can use. They are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. It is my turn to pick, and I am currently picking because I forgot to pick right before
Oh,
we
we talked about this
started.
before.
We did, but I found a good one. I found a good one.
Now it's gonna be super hard.
Nope, it's a
All
it's
right.
it's a good one. So yeah, I've got it
Okay.
picked out. It's Azul's turn to guess. I'm ahead 4 points right now. So Azul's got some catching up to do. We'll see if he can do it this week. Are you ready, Azul?
I'm ready. Maybe with it.
All right. It does its level best to glare and pull a scary face, but it can't help grinning if anyone pats its head. I'm gonna read that one more time because I kind of butchered it, but it does its level best to glare and pull a scary face, but it can't help grinning if anyone pats its head.
Okay, so I think I know what card this is. But I don't know the name. And of course, this is where I kind of get stumped sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure it's the basic of Houndstone EX or whatever. The psychic dog, the new psychic dog. I'm pretty sure that it's its basic. Because it pats its head, so it's definitely like a dog Pokemon. And then it is supposed to be like a spooky Pokemon, something like that. So I don't know the name, so I don't know if I'm actually gonna be able to get this one, even though I know what Pokemon is. I think, but I would probably because I don't think it would ever be the evolution if it's like that cuddly or whatever. Is it an evolution Pokemon? It is a stage 1, right? Maybe it's not a stage 1. Is it just a basic Pokemon? I think it's called
I don't
Houndstone. I
know
don't
what
remember.
I should do in
All
these
right,
situations. Should I help
what
out Azul and tell him what the
stage?
name of the because he clearly knows what Pokemon he wants to say, but like, should I tell him what the name of the Pokemon is?
What
Like,
stage is the card?
it is a basic.
See, now that's the I would guess the Pokemon, but I don't remember the name of the Pokemon. It's called there's Houndstone or something like
Yes.
that.
Dude,
That's the
one way to
evolution.
try to remember any of these Pokemon is that like almost all of their names are puns. Like almost all of them are puns.
Yeah. Um how is Houndstone a pun?
Well, it's like a hound that has a headstone.
Yeah,
Houndstone.
Houndstone. So Pupstone? Not quite a hound yet, so we got Pupstone. Um oh man. Houndstone. Dude, I just don't remember. What if in these situations you get to like take one more point away, but then I just like we both
Just
know what
say
Pokemon I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? Like We can even go down to 1 point, to be honest, like, 'cause I just don't know the name of the Pokemon, but I know what Pokemon you're talking about. Let me
The
give you 1 more second. Houndstone, um, Graveyard Pokemon, Tombstone, Houndtomb,
Say
no,
that
I
one word again with the G.
Graveyard? It sounds familiar, but I still don't know what the name is. Grave Pup, Pup Grave, Dog Grave, Grave Dog, Grave Hound, Hound Grave. See, I just I still don't have it. So what is it? I don't fully remember what it looks like either, to be honest. I
If
can't
I show you can I show him a picture of it? What about that?
show me a picture and see if that helps at all. Chips really wants to help me out here.
You're gonna see the
Uh,
name in the link though.
oh, I didn't look at the link. I'm not looking at the link, but I see it. It's got a candle on its head. I still don't know. Gravehound?
Oh, you're close. I mean, is this what you want to guess?
Yes. The
Okay, the
basic.
Pokemon's name is Grievard. Like
What? Oh,
graveyard,
yeah,
Grievard.
graveyard. Was
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
right one?
No, the Pokemon is Pancham.
Oh, what the Dude, I was, like, pretty confident on that one, to be honest. I was like, "Scary new Pokemon." I never would've guessed Pancham. What?
Bro, if you asked what set it was from, you would have known instantly because it's not from Scarlet Violet base set.
I know it wouldn't have been that, but I wouldn't have been able to guess what Pokemon it is.
Bro, it's a little Pancham. He just wants a little. He's happy to get a little
Pompous
pat on the head.
Punch, bro? It'd be, like, basic, breakthrough, Pompous Punch.
Here's what happened. We get to guess that flavor text. Chip panic realizes he has not picked a card yet. So this is what one of my go-tos is. Little insight for anyone on guess the flavor text. I pick on pkmncards.com. I click the little question mark symbol up in the top right corner, and it just spawns a page of totally random cards. So I just
Yeah.
scrolled through, picked one, something that wasn't totally obvious, and I just rolled with it. And
I
here's
told you
what
it
we
was gonna
got.
be a hard one. Yeah,
We
so
got
that's a
Pancham.
kind of a hack for anyone out there, 'cause, like, people have told me before that, they do it on, like, road trips when they're driving
Yeah,
to, like,
sure.
regionals and stuff, that they'll play guess that flavor text. Um, so if you need to find cards to be able to do that, use the little gammoncards.com, press the question marks, gives you random Pokemon cards, and then you can pick one of the flavor texts. Yeah, I
Yep,
do that
there you go.
sometimes too. Sometimes I like see one throughout the week that has like a cool flavor text, or sometimes like some people will message me them or tell me about them at regional sometimes, and I'll use some of those. Or sometimes, yeah, we'll go to the question marks as well. But yeah, no points for me this week because Chip picked a really hard one that no one ever would have gotten. There's no way anyone got that. Should have been Grieveyard, or what's it? What's the Pokemon's name?
He's already
Grieve,
forgot it. It's
Grieve,
Grievard.
Grievard. That's so stupid. Is like Vard a kind of dog or something? Like,
Yeah, I guess
where are we going
so.
with it?
Like a Bernard, Saint Bernard, Grievard.
Whatever. All right, let's move on. We got a couple other things to talk about. Some more results, but this is in the new format, not quite our format yet. We only have 4 deck lists and decks to take a look at. We already mentioned the Arctina that got 4th place. Congrats to them. One thing I was surprised in the Arctina list, though, I'll mention that only one Iono. I thought there'd be a couple more. Only one. Interesting. Really good late game comeback card. Still opting for the heavier early disruption of the Judge.
Yeah.
And then there was the Flying Pikachu in there as well.
Yeah, the Flying Pikachu is kind of interesting. I actually remember at the very start of this format, I was watching LDF stream and he was playing an Arceus Tina Flying Pikachu deck. And I remember watching him play that and being like, that seems pretty decent, to be honest. Like it's got your answers for the Lost Box with the Flying Pikachu, and Tina just like KOs everything else in the format, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this deck is pretty interesting. We got a couple capturing aroma in here, in lieu of maybe 2 trekking shoes, right? And then 2 copies of Sharon's Care, which is more than what we've seen from some of those other lists from this weekend. The energy split does get a little weird with having to play the lightnings, but you just cut 1 grass, 1 psychic for 2 lightnings.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't hurt too much because you should have plenty of that.
the tournament was won, however, and it also got 2nd place by Gardevoir EX. And both of these decks made use of they were overall pretty similar lists, but they both made use of 2 pretty key new cards that we'll be getting in Paldea Evolved, and it has a lot of people pretty excited. So we wanted to talk about this, and that's the 4 copies of Iono, and then also 1 copy of Reversal Energy. So I mean, we talked about it for a long time. Azul, Pokemon told us they were giving us comeback mechanics. We finally get them in this second Sword and Shield, or sorry, Scarlet and Violet set. And then wins the first major tournament in Japan. Comebacks, are
Yeah.
they a thing?
I mean, Iono's, like, pretty big. I think Iono might, push Lost Box out of the format, to be honest. Maybe some other Lost Zone decks can survive it, but, your turn 1 KO with Cram, Iono to 5. You get another KO, Iono to 4, and it gets worse and worse from there, right? Look at this Guardy list. They have the 4 Iono, the 4 and the Pal Pad, 4 Pal Pad, jeez. When you said were, big impactful cards in the deck, the Reversal Energy is, like, okay. I thought you were gonna talk about Super Rod, though, because I think Super Rod adds a ton
Yeah,
to
sure.
Gardevoir, being able to, like, chain Gardevoirs. You can actually, like, kinda turn the deck into a one-prize deck with with Super Rod, because not only can you like recover your Guardies more aggressively to be able to like chain Shiny Arcane and Gardevoirs, and we see both lists are playing two now and less of the Zacian, and they don't even play this guy Sealstone. Um, but it also allows you to put energy back in the deck to actually hit the energy off Shiny Arcana to make it so your Shiny Arcana or Gardevoirs actually one hit KO stuff more consistently. So yeah, Super Rod I think is the bigger card here. Maybe you could argue Iona's probably the biggest card here. Super Rod second. Reversal Energy, I guess if you get Pat to the Peak, that'll be kind of cool. But yeah, Gardevoir kind of dominating. We don't see the rest of the top cut-ish top decks. We don't see the top four, so be interesting to see how good other stuff did. There was a Lost Box still up there. Like I said, it might be hard for Lost Box to compete with the with Ionos being the format. And one the other thing we can mention, there's the Drifloons in the both lists, which is probably also pretty good for Mirror, just
No,
to have something that can
only
hit.
one of them has the Drifloon.
Only one is a Drifloon, yeah. But I think I'm not surprised to not see Drifloon plus Big Charm or whatever it was called in the decks, because I'm pretty sure that combo is just bad in Guardy. It's like it's a good meme, but nothing more. So I'm not surprised to not see the Drifloon itself in there is kind of chill, but I'm not surprised to not see the I don't know what is the card called? Fake Big Cape, Fake Cape of
I
Toughness.
don't know. I don't think it's been revealed in English yet, so I don't know what the English
Oh,
name is gonna be. It'll probably be something different as well, but
it'll just be Cape of Toughness. No, but it's like a charm.
yeah, it's some sort of charm thing.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and so we see the one Drifloon. There's no charm card, and there's no Champions Festival. That was kind of the big talk, right? It's like, oh,
yeah.
Champions Festival. Everyone's wasting their money spending hundreds of dollars on Champions Festival for this combo that's not even that good. Which might be true, to be honest. Like, I don't know how good that combo is actually going to be, but Champions Festivals, while they are expensive here in North America, they're even more expensive over in Japan. I did see someone say, like, if we look at this guy that got first place, Yoshiyuki Yamaguchi, they did get top 16 at Worlds in 2019. So theoretically, they have Champions Festivals, right? So, I mean, if they wanted to, they could have played them, but chose
Yeah.
not to, chose to just go with a more consistent build. And I do really think, I think, yeah, I mean,
I mean, Japanese Champions Festivals, I think, are
this
like the most expensive Champions Festivals. So
yeah,
they
they're like
maybe
over
sold
a
them,
thousand
or
dollars.
like if they had them graded or something, maybe they don't want to, or also like you maybe just don't want to use them. Is it worth it? Like if you don't think it makes that big of a difference in like your matchup spread to have a Champions Festival, but it does seem good when you're going more Shiny Arcana heavy, right? Getting that extra energy on the Shiny Arcana to get push for one KO seems pretty good. But Collapse and Sinnoh are still pretty strong as well, especially if like you really want that Sinnoh for the Lugia matchup late game.
Yeah, so Super Rod definitely showing it's an impactful card, and I think that's something that we definitely expected. Like recovery cards feel kind of meh right now, right? Miriam, Clara, Rescue Carrier. It's pretty much it in the whole format, I think.
Yeah,
So getting Super Rod back, I mean, it's one of the most powerful ones in the history of the game. Um,
yeah, and I actually
what do you
thought
think about
about
the change up going for this when we're coming off of Ordinary Rod? Like, is it kind of just arbitrary which random recovery card they decide to give us between this, like Super
well,
Rod,
Ordinary
Ordinary
Rod's
Rod, Rescue
better.
Stretcher? Like,
Okay, Rescue Stretcher is broken. That one they should not reprint. Rescue Stretcher
yeah,
is definitely
sure.
the best. I think Ordinary Rod is better than Super Rod, and then Super Rod is the third, because it recovers less. Like you don't really need 3 energy. You don't really need 3 Pokemon ever. Like it's kind of
Well,
whatever. I think the
situationally though, you do,
yeah, but
right?
I feel like more situations are you're gonna want 4 things.
I mean, imagine Super Rod with Kyogre, right? Like,
Yeah, I'd rather have Ordinary Rod. Like, well,
would you?
well, all right, maybe. We still, I mean, you still need energy retrieval in the deck as well. Maybe you're right. Maybe Ordinary Rod and Super Rod are close. I actually was thinking about this though. I was kind of like, I don't hate the idea of kind of us having stuff like Clara. But one of the things with the problems with stuff like Clara, or your Pokemon recovery is only supporter based, is once hand disruption is really popular. Like even we could have been in a current situation where like you're getting judged every turn, which some decks do. Or especially when Iono comes out, when you're getting Iono'd every turn, having to play your supporter for turn to recover your Pokemon is really not good. So I think it makes sense for them to reprint Super Rod. At first, I was kind of questioning it, like why can't we just like use Clara and stuff, like make the Pokemon recovery turns like a lot more impactful because it's your supporter for turn. But if everyone has to do it, then you have to like find the right time to do it. But if you're getting Iono'd every single turn, it can be a lot harder to find those turns, especially as you get later in the game, right? So I think it's a
Sure.
good thing they reprinted Super Rod after I've kind of like revisited that my thought process on that. So I think it makes sense to have a more aggressive Pokemon recovery card if something like Iono is going to be in the format.
No, yeah, I think that makes sense. I do want to see the rest of the results from this top
But yeah, talk about them
cut,
next week if
but
they
yeah,
come
we've
out.
we've only got these top 4 for now, but I have to
Lost Box was
imagine
there though.
there's some other stuff. Yeah, you were saying, yeah, Iono you think is just gonna make really difficult to play Lost Box. So someone still found a way with it. I guess we should look at that list because there's something pretty interesting in here, and that is a new Luxray, which is a stage 2 Pokemon, but it has this ability, Overflowing Fighting Spirit. You may use this ability during your turn. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, put this Pokemon onto your bench so you can put it directly into play. And it has an attack for 1 lightning, 2 colorless, wild charge, 180 damage. This Pokemon does 20 damage to itself.
Yeah, so the Luxray there, have to imagine because you want to be lightning type, right? Because it's literally just Snorlax, but you can't play it unless you're losing the game, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be for like lightning weakness up against Lugia. It's got to be like the only thing I can think about. You obviously still have Raikou in like this build. This build is pretty turbo, pretty straightforward, pretty turbo. You do have the Raikou in there, like I just mentioned, so you have that lightning weak as well. But like the big thing, so my initiative was like, I feel like Lost Box could be like too good when Super Rod comes out. But I think Iono probably keeps that a little bit in check. And now I'm like on more so the side of like I think Iono will push Lost Box out of the format more than Super Rod will kind of get Lost Box back to where it kind of was before pre pre rotation. Because Super Rod's insane. Like Ordinary Rod is insanely good in
Yeah.
Lost Box. And now Super Rod coming back is basically the exact same card for it. So, but Iono's here, so I think it kind of keeps it in check. I'm more so on the side of Iono could definitely push Lost Box all the way to the format. But yeah, some new additions for Lost Box, so it's not getting nothing from the new set, that's for sure. I don't know if we're going to be
Yeah.
playing the Luxray. That's kind of interesting, but
A couple other new cards as well we can mention does have the one Jet Energy. It's a colorless energy card. When you attach this card from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon, switch it with your active Pokemon. So lets you get another flower selecting off, lets you get into the active to get your Snorlax to be not asleep anymore, to get him to stop sleeping on the job. And also has the one Artisan Stadium card. We talked about this one a little bit earlier in the podcast,
Mhm.
actually, but once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a basic Pokemon that does not have a rule box and put it onto their bench. Then they shuffle their deck. So there's a lot of good stadium choices for Lost Box right now. Beach Court
Yeah.
seems like the most obvious one. If you're playing Kyogre, you probably want some sort of Pokestop in there, but Artisan becomes a solid third option. Where do you think it kind of falls?
It seems like it's the worst of them because you also give it to your opponent. So at that point, I don't know why not just a fourth nest ball. You know, I'm not trying to help my opponent out that much. That's like a big help.
Sure.
Like there's a difference between Mezagoza and Artisan Town, I feel like, right? That's a pretty big difference of how much you're helping your opponent. Like the Mezagoza, I mean, it really sucks when you get tails and then they get heads, but also when you're only playing it in decks like Lugia that have so much stadium removal just through their attack of the Lugia. I don't know. Not a huge fan of it if you don't have to play because it feels like it really does help your opponent a lot. And like I said, this list already doesn't have or nest ball. So if you're trying to like it would just kind of come down to how many more stadium removal options do you want, I think is like the biggest thing. Is like, do you really need a second stadium? Do you need that much flexibility to remove your opponent's stadiums? If not, it should probably just be a fourth nest ball, to be honest. But that'd be kind of the thing is like, how often do you want to bump path or whatever?
We do see the split of the Forest Seal, Sky Seal, something we
Not
see
super
people
turbo.
doing sometimes in this format. I don't know what is kind of we talked about it I think a little bit earlier, right? But like just overall like
No Drapion as well. Wait, maybe people don't play Mew anymore? Sorry, I'm kind of like thought process coming out.
talking through a bunch of
I
thoughts at
mean, like,
once.
if I think Lugia is the main matchup you want Sky Seal for, or the Drapion with the
Yeah.
Sky Seal, and just depending on how some games develop, even against like Arceus decks, you might want the Sky Seal, but can't really argue to have like another pretty reasonable out to Colress through the Force Steel, right? Or potentially anything else you'd want for like a big turn, like a Lost Vacuum Grab to get to Sableye sooner, or to get to your Lost Gates or your Mirage Gates sooner, stuff like that. You can't ever go wrong with that, right?
Yeah, there is also just one lost vacuum in this list,
Yeah.
which is maybe a little surprising.
Yeah, so it's not really that this is not that turbo at all, for sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's not that turbo of a build. It's kind of more of the I don't know, another Lost Box build. Mid-range Lost Box. Like it's not super turbo, but it's not like you
Mid-range.
make up with that with like having a ton of late game either. Like you don't have Kyogre in there either, right?
Yeah, I thought you like hated the like classifications of Pokemon decks like that, like mid-range and
No, I'm not. I'm someone who uses like I use Tempo. Remember Tempo
okay.
Zard?
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
And people hated that name because they wanted to use Crucephalon. Why would you ever want to call anything a Crucephalon? Yeah, I'm not. I'm all fine with the tempo. What was the other one? Mid range. I'm fine with all that as long as it like. It's weird because like you'd have to. The biggest thing is like Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon players only play Pokemon. So if you haven't played another game like Hearthstone or Magic, I feel like you just don't understand how those terms sometimes like when you pick up a deck and you play it. And I play like a decent amount of Hearthstone, not that much Magic. But when someone will call something like a tempo deck or something in Hearthstone, I'll be like, it does kind of feel like that based on what is that's kind of classified as Hearthstone decks. And then sometimes you just play a Pokemon deck and you're like, oh, this feels like a tempo Hearthstone deck in just the terms of how it plays and how it matches up against other decks. Like you don't have a comeback mechanic. You're basically take a knockout every single turn. A couple different options, but like if your opponent like you're not rock sanding them at the end of the game, they have to rock sand you. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to stay on tempo with the prize trade. You're not playing like a comeback game ever, right? So I don't know, it's hard to explain to like Pokemon players who haven't like played other card games. I think that's like a big part of it why it kind of lands flat in the Pokemon TCG community, stuff like tempo and mid range and all that stuff.
All right, and then one last topic for us today. Something we did just want to mention is some new TCG products that just came out at the end of last week. So some new products from the Pokemon Company International, including a new League Battle deck. So in the past, we've gotten Shadow Rider and Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. We've gotten Mew VMAX, and now we get Origin Form Palkia VSTAR, which comes with a 3-2 Palkia line, one Radiant Greninja, and the deck list is on the back of the box here. I've actually got one here that we're looking at. It comes with a 3-3 Bibero line. There's no more Inteleon to cram with the Palkia. It comes with the Radiant Greninja. It comes with a Manaphy, two Hisuian Basculin. I think they were just
Oh,
like,
let's go.
we need some other water Pokemon that's like just something to put in here, right? So we threw that guy in. 4 battle VIP pass, 3 bosses orders, 3 choice belt, and echoing horn. Just not gonna read everything. 4 Irida, right? In here, 3 Melanie, 1 Roxanne, 4 trekking shoes, and then a few other decent
Wait,
trainer
is this
cards.
the second Palkia deck they've made?
No, this is the first one.
I thought they did another Palkia one. Did they do
There's
an
the
Ice Rider one?
world's deck.
Oh, no, I thought they did like a Palkia kind of battle style, like theme deck-ish product. Maybe I'm wrong.
There's an Origin Form Palkia like premium collection box that comes with
Oh,
it just
maybe that's
comes
what I'm
with a
thinking of.
Palkia V Star and V, but it's not like a deck or anything like that. So yeah,
Okay,
we
okay,
just
I'm
want to
wrong.
mention this because this is consistently one of the better products to pick up. I don't know if I really would necessarily recommend this one though, because Palkia is not as good right now as it has been, right? This does
Yeah.
have a ton of cards that are going to be useful in other decks. Like, I mean, you can use Boss's Orders in anything, you can use Battle VIP Pass in anything, Bibarel can go in a lot of things, Radiant Greninja goes in a lot of things, Manaphy.
How much does that
Um,
thing cost?
so this thing is $30,
30? Mm. I don't know, it's like
29.99.
we're just starting out and playing. I guess like if someone's listening right now, they've never picked up a Pokemon TCG deck before. That seems like a reasonable product if you're playing it against like another one or other
Yeah,
league battle decks. You get like all the starter cards too. I don't know. It's like kind of seems a little bit daunting to tell someone to go on TCG Player or something like that and go order 4 of every staple card, right? Instead of
right.
getting that and just getting like a lot of the staple cards like that. A little bit less daunting, a little bit more reasonable. I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I don't hate the idea of a product like that. I think it would have been cool, even if it had like I don't know. Would have been cool if it was like Maridon or something else though, right? Like a more relevant Pokemon in the meta.
Yeah, well, I
When
think
did this
part
one
of the
come out?
thing
Recently?
is like yeah, this just came out Friday.
Okay.
So I think part of the I mean, they have to decide what goes in these decks like months in
Yeah.
advance, right?
Arctina?
Because yeah, I mean, I guess something like that could have been an option, but like they can't put I don't think they can put more than 6 like ultra rare cards, right, in the
2/2
packaging.
Arc, 1/1 Tina.
2 Arc on 1 Tina.
That's
Yeah, there you
still
go.
fine though, right? Like that's
I mean, they
not bad.
did do two Mew VMAX, 2 Genesect. They did that.
Yeah, they made it
So,
work with the Mutech.
but to me, this does feel like maybe a little bit less of a like so when the Mew VMAX battle deck came out, it was cool because if you literally just bought 2 of them, you had a meta deck. You could
Yeah.
build a tier 1 Mew VMAX deck. This one, it's just like it just so happens that Palkia is not as good right now, but that doesn't mean that like this is not a good like thing to get for someone who's maybe wanting to. So like I think this is a great product maybe for someone who wants to play the Pokemon TCG, but like is maybe familiar with it, like has played in the past, is getting back into it because you're gonna get like a solid playable deck. Like looking at the deck list on the back here, like this deck is gonna be pretty consistent. It has like a good competitive strategy, good competitive thinking behind it. You're not gonna show up to a regionals and probably make day two with this deck, but you could go to your locals and have a decent record, I think, right?
Yeah.
And Palkia just overall is a strong, solid card. And there's nothing to say that something's not going to come out in the future that makes Palkia much, much better. That totally could happen, right? But just as it stands right now, it's just not the strongest. I do think Radiant Greninja though before this came out was like $8 or $9. So this coming out is going to drop the price of it a good bit. Battle VIP Pass was getting back up to like $2 or something like that. It's pretty funny because VIP Pass was like a $5, $6 card, and then a League Battle deck came out. It dropped all the way down to like bulk. Now it's back up to like $2, and then this comes out, so it's going to drop down again.
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to come out in the trainer's toolkit, so it'll drop down again. But then, like
I just
maybe in
checked. It's
a
a
year, it's going to keep going up.
$1.50 right now. Yeah. But yeah, go tell. I have like I had something I wanted to mention, but yeah, with a couple other products that were just released. Did you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So there's also so that's probably a little bit better. I mean, they go by the level system, right? So that's a level 3 product. These are two level 1 products. So someone who's
Okay, I didn't even know about that.
literally just trying to learn the game, I think. And that's these new EX battle decks. So this is the first we don't get theme decks anymore. They stopped doing theme decks part way through this Sword and Shield generation. We started getting the V battle decks, and now they give us the EX battle decks, and the packaging is a lot different, and the price is also cheaper, which I thought was really interesting because the V battle decks were $12.99 MSRP. The MSRP for every other product went up with the release of Scarlet and Violet. Like booster packs are more expensive, collection boxes are more expensive, elite trainer boxes are more expensive, but these are actually cheaper. These are $9.99, which I think under $10 is like the perfect impulse buy price, right? Someone sees this on the
Yeah.
Pokemon shelf, $10. Yeah, sure, I'll pick it up. It's got an EX card. It looks like a bunch of other things happening here. They do have the deck list on the side of the box. And these are not competitive decks. Like the supporters that are included in this include Nemona and Youngster and Jack and Potion Switch. So it's really basic stuff happening here. But just to like teach someone the basics of the Pokemon TCG, like this is like the perfect little cousin or little niece or nephew gift, I feel like.
So that's what I want to talk about after you finish like going through those. Was just like uh comparing like what I mean that those feel pretty bad to be honest for like what you get in them. Like it's one like you can't really level those up at all. You can't take any of that and then all of a sudden go get a couple new cards and all of a sudden you have like a deck, right? Which kind of feels bad.
Mhm.
Because it's like it is like a good product in terms of price to get people to like start playing, but then to for them to be like, oh, okay, well now I want to like make a deck so when I go to locals or whatever I can actually play. You can take Switch like like you can't take
There
any of
is
that.
I didn't read everything. There is 2 Nest Ball, 2 Ultra Ball, so there's like a
Okay,
little
you
bit
got a
more
little
going
bit, yeah, but
on.
it feels
Yeah.
so. Give them the researches, give them the judges, give them 4 nest ball. Like I don't think that would hurt to give people like a little bit more of a base, like a ground baseline to work with. Especially when we compare it to products that Japan gets, which they get like full built decks almost. I feel like in their products sometimes, right? Aren't most of their products like
I
really
mean,
really
we did
good
just
for
talk about the
competitive?
League Battle deck, which is a full built competitive
Yeah,
deck,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So
But
it's
that was
like
also
I
Palkia.
think that it's fine that there's both options, right?
I
Um,
just feel like you're not giving them anything to work with if they want to go further. So like it might be a little bit like daunting or discouraging to like want to like progress from there, right? When you can't even take you can barely take any of what you just got and move forward with it, right? I don't know. I feel like you could just definitely give
no,
them
I
a
get
little
what you're saying. It's like you
like
give
put
this
a
to you like someone gets this from their parents, right? So a 10-year-old gets this from their parents and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, this is fun. I want to go play with my friends." And then they go play a Pokemon League and they just get destroyed by Mew VMAX, like
Yeah.
not being able to do anything.
It's like they can't even like adjust their deck to even all of a sudden become like, spend another $20 on cards or $30, whatever, and then all of a sudden make their deck like not viable, obviously, but like competitively, but like, you can beat up, another little Timmy, right? Little Timmy can go beat up on another little Timmy now. What was I gonna say from there? Also, because it felt like we were going in like such a positive direction for products, which I don't think it's like, but it feels like we pulled back a little bit recently. I don't know, especially with like these things, seeing these things. But like compared to what we used to have for compared to what we used to have for like products as far as like giving you like kind of a baseline to work with competitively, this is definitely an improvement, right? Everything's been an improvement for a while, but now it feels like we kind of plateaued
I don't know. I mean,
aggressively.
Yeah, I understand kind of all sides of it, but also it's like so I don't know that the goal for someone buying an EX battle deck has to be that they're gonna go play the Pokemon
Yeah, but that
TCG
should be an
at their local
option, right?
league. It should be an option, but there is an
There's
option. There is an option. It's right here. It's the league battle deck, right?
I guess,
So
but
it's
no
like
one yeah, I guess.
so this is like you give like parent buys this for their kids or you get it as a gift for your, nieces, nephews, siblings, whatever. They sit at home and play it with one another. Like and just, and I mean it is kind of unfortunate that the two that they have, one of them is a fighting type and one of them's a, a lightning
Yeah,
type,
that's another thing for sure.
which is kind of tough. But I think it's fine. Like the end goal does not need to be that everyone who buys one of these products
No, of
goes
course it doesn't
and
need to be the end
plays
product, but
competitively.
yeah, it doesn't. But you could give Timmy 4 nest ball, and he could never, you could play 3 games of Pokemon with his deck and never play it again. But then also you give Jimmy 4 nest ball, and now he's all of a sudden competing at league. Like who cares? It's just 60 pieces of cardboard. If some of them are, if they're mostly more competitive cards or competitive leaning, then someone can do something with them, right? Like it doesn't matter if they end up in the trash for Timmy, but it matters if Jimmy now can take those cards, get a couple more cards, and all of a sudden be playing at league
I
a little
almost
bit more
wonder,
competitively.
what about this? Think about it like this, though. I almost wonder if there's like a replayability aspect to your deck being worse, right? Like if all you know from the Pokemon TCG is these two decks, if you don't know the like consistency of For Research or Colress's experiment, like Battle VIP Pass, if you don't know the consistency of these cards exists, and all you know is these things, where it's like I opened up with my opening hand and I played my Nemona to draw 3. Oh, I didn't draw an energy card or I didn't draw my evolution. I guess I got to try again in my next game, right?
Yeah, I guess that could be it. Then you get your first research and add it to your deck, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is so good." And then like you're like, "I want to get another one," and you slowly add, you slowly build up your deck with like 4 research, 4 Death Ball, and you're like, "Damn, this is broken." I was actually gonna when you mentioned that kind of like this is like the starter of it, and then it's like I was gonna say so the Palkia deck is like when Professor Elm gave Ash his Pikachu and sent him off into the world. You give him the
Professor who gave Ash a Pikachu?
was it Professor Oak? Professor Elm? Professor
Yeah, there
Oak?
you
Yeah,
go. There you
Professor I
go.
don't know, Professor Tree, Professor Dot Tree gave Ash the Pokeball. It's like giving the kid the Palkia battle deck and sending him off to conquer the Pokemon world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you need, bro. You just need one Pokemon to get going. Or Pokemon deck in this situation.
So yeah, we just kind of wanted to give our thoughts on these products. There's also the trainer's toolkit that's supposed to come out, I think this month. I think it's coming out at the end of the
Oh, what
month.
does this one give? Because those have
It's
always been pretty good.
it's gonna have Arceus V-Star in it, but we don't know what
Okay.
trainers it has.
That'll be good ones. And those products have been great so far. So those are hopefully they maintain that. Yeah. Hopefully they give him Arctina, not like Arc. I don't know what Arc
No,
Palkia.
no, no. It'll just have one or two promo cards in it. It'll be like an Arceus V and a V
Oh,
Star, and then like so the way that one works is
how do those work? I don't even know
it
that.
gives you like it gives you like a couple packs. You get a promo card. So in the past it was like the Lumineon V or the Dedenne GX back then, like the
Oh, the
alternate
Crobat
artwork.
ones too, right?
Yeah, the Crobat ones, and then it gives you
Okay,
like
I remember these
sealed
now.
little brick of trainer cards. It's
Yeah,
literally a stack of 60 trainer cards, two of each one. So it'll be like two boss, two nest ball, two ultra ball, something like that
better
going
give
on.
4 Ball.
But
give
it's
the
going to be two of everything. That's just how
give
they've done
Timmy
it. They
give
want
Timmy
you
the
to
4
they
Ball.
want you to buy two of them, Azul. They want you to buy two of them to get your
Timmy
play
needs
sets.
Timmy needs 4 Ball, bro. But yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything we want to talk about this week. Unless you had any final thoughts, Chip, I think you can send us out.
Yeah, don't think so. Big thanks to everyone, of course, as always, for listening and supporting. It really does mean a lot to us. Everyone comes to listen to what we have to say every single week. If you do enjoy the show, please be sure to leave us a rating, drop a review on your favorite podcasting platform, um, or leave a like on the YouTube video. Be sure to comment, let us know what your thoughts are. We had plenty of things that we discussed in this week's episode. If you want to stay connected to us, the best way to do that is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie. Azul is at Azul_GG. You can also follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, thanks for watching. As always, appreciate the support. I was a little bit low energy this cast, so I apologize for that. I'll remember to drink some caffeine before next week's episode and catch us next week, Tuesday, 7 a.m. Eastern. See you then.